One day, a group of friends get stuck in a time loop where every night they die in different ways and then come back to life just to relive that same horrifying night again. The story begins with a girl running for her life from someone who looks like a monster. She tries to escape him until her last breath and finally manages to tear open a tomb and crawl out from underground. But just then, a masked guy shows up and kills her. On the other side, we see a girl named Clover who's out with her friends looking for her sister Melanie. Their mom had passed away just a week ago. After that, Melanie left Clover alone and disappeared. The next day, Melanie sent Clover a video message where she talked about everything and asked Clover to call her back. But since then, her phone's been off and nobody has heard from her. At the beginning of the story, we saw Melanie getting killed. Clover and her friends had already searched many places for Melanie, and this was their last stop. They were about to head back home. That's when Clover hears from a gas station guy about a mysterious place called Galore Valley, where people have been known to disappear. They suspected Melanie might have vanished there too. So after getting the directions from the guy, they head towards Galore Valley. While driving, a heavy storm suddenly hits with strong winds, so they decide to turn back. Abel turned the car around twice, but each time they ended up on the same road again. This freaked out Abel's girlfriend, Nina. She started feeling like something bad was going to happen. On top of that, Megan started feeling nauseous. Out of nowhere, they came out of the storm. Weird thing was, the place they ended up at had totally clear weather. No rain, no wind, but all around them, it was still pouring. That's when we see a graveyard, the same one where that monster was hiding, the one Melanie was running from, but got killed by the masked guy in the end, which means now Clover and her friends are in danger too. Clover's ex-boyfriend Max says this place feels creepy and weird. We should leave now. But there was no cell signal. Abel replies, "I'm not driving in this storm. We could crash. We gotta wait here till the storm passes." There was an old mansion nearby, so everyone decided to stay there and wait for the weather to clear up. It was clear nobody had been in that house for years. Everything was old. The furniture, the walls, and a clock that looked like it hadn't worked in forever. Meanwhile, Abel, while recording a video, walks into a small room in the mansion where the walls were covered with posters of missing people. And surprisingly, one of them was Melanie. But the weird part was, none of the posters had any name, address, or other info. Outside, Clover catches a glimpse of a girl through the storm and lightning. She thinks it's her sister Melanie and runs after her without thinking and disappears into the storm. Back in the mansion, Nina finds an old guest book with a bunch of signatures. At the very end were several signatures from Melanie, like she'd signed it every day. The last one looked half done, like she wasn't even able to finish it. Nina signs her name on a blank page too. Somehow, Clover suddenly comes back through the storm and shows up next to Max. She's shown Melanie's signature too. When she closes the guest book, the cover says, "Welcome to Galore Valley." Seeing that, Clover instantly realizes this is the place where people have been disappearing, and maybe her sister Melanie vanished here too. Just then, Nina notices the old clock in the mansion. It had somehow flipped backward. Everyone is shocked, because no one had even touched it, and then another problem shows up. Someone starts their car and keeps hitting the gas like they're trying to scare them or maybe run them over. Scared, everyone locks themselves inside the house. Their phones didn't have signal, so they couldn't call the cops. In this situation, a landline phone was their only hope. Nina and her boyfriend Abel were keeping an eye on the car, while Megan went to the basement with Clover and Max to look for a phone. After searching for a while, Clover found a phone that was working, but no calls were going through. The radio was the same. It was on, but no sound was coming from the other side. Meanwhile, they heard something fall near the restroom. Abel went to check it out, but just a few seconds later, the lights went out in that area. Nina felt something was off, so she went there too. As soon as she turned on the lights, she saw someone had killed Abel. Seeing the masked guy, Nina screamed in fear. Hearing her scream, Max quietly went to check and saw Nina's body lying on the ground. The masked guy was still there. This freaked everyone out, and they all ran to hide wherever they could. That masked guy came into the basement and started looking for them. Just then, Max grabbed a chair and smashed it on his head. The chair broke, but it didn't affect him at all. Max then picked up a sharp piece of the broken chair and tried to stab him, but ended up getting killed by the masked man. Seeing this, Megan lost control of her breathing and accidentally revealed her position. In the next second, the masked man yanked her out of the closet and smashed her face again and again on the floor until she was dead. Somehow, Clover grabbed a knife from the floor and stabbed him in the back, then ran off into the woods. The masked man started chasing her. While running, Clover tripped and fell, and right then, she saw her sister standing in front of her. But before she could call out her name, the masked man killed her. At that exact moment, the time loop reset, and as the clock in the mansion flipped again, everyone came back to life. But the most shocking part was, they all remembered everything from before. And this time, on the wall where the missing posters of others were hanging, now posters of Clover and all her friends were up there too. Things were getting more confusing, and nobody could figure out what was going on. Among them, Megan knew a little about witchcraft. She could feel that tonight was going to be even more terrifying than the last. While talking, her bones started cracking in a weird way, and her eyeballs rolled back. Then she screamed so loud that all the lights around them exploded. Everything went dark. And in that darkness, Megan mysteriously vanished from where she was. Everyone panicked and chaos broke out. In the middle of all that, they heard Megan whispering something faintly. They all ran in the direction of the sound and saw Megan was floating a foot above the ground and talking to each of the missing people on the wall one by one. Each of them was telling her their story. Suddenly she screamed and then calmly said, "Don't let it in," and passed out as she hit the floor. Meanwhile, someone started knocking on the door, but nobody opened it because Megan had clearly said, "Don't let it in." Just then, they heard Melanie crying outside. She started begging to open the door, calling out her sister's name. From her screams, it sounded like someone was beating her up out there. But the real shock came when no one was actually outside, and right in front of their house, another house had appeared out of nowhere. As soon as they focused on that house, Clover suddenly got yanked through the air and thrown 30 feet away. Then the door of that mysterious house slammed shut with the others still inside. Clover screamed for help, but even after trying hard, Max couldn't open the door. Meanwhile, some strange force started dragging Clover into the house across the street. Inside, she found an old lady watching the news on TV. The news was about a mine collapse in Galore Valley, where hundreds of people were buried and killed. Clover tried to sneak out, but the door wouldn't open. That's when the old lady walked up to her and said, "This town is cursed, and there's only one way to escape. Survive till the night is over, or become a part of it." Next second, she threw Clover down and sat on her chest, then placed her oxygen mask over Clover's face. In just a few seconds, she took over Clover's body, and her own turned to dust. Clover's eyes turned pitch black, and a creepy, devilish smile appeared on her face. On the other side, Max somehow managed to open the door of his house and came to save Clover. Just then, the house door suddenly swung open, and Nina and Abel took off in the car right behind Max. They had made up their minds. They had to survive first to be able to call for help. But it was raining hard and they couldn't see the road, and suddenly a huge monster appeared right in front of them, blocking their path. Freaked out, they slammed the car in reverse and rushed back. That's when Nina's side door jammed and she started panicking. In the middle of that, someone killed Abel. The next moment, Nina was also dead. Meanwhile, Max had reached inside the old lady's house. There were strange drawings laid out on the table, but Clover was nowhere to be found. Max tiptoed upstairs, and in the very next second, he was killed by Clover. Actually, the old lady's soul had taken over Clover, and she was the one who killed Max. After that, the old lady walked out of her house. That's when the masked man hit her with the car, and that was the end of her too. The moment they died, the time loop reset once again, and they all came back to life. Same spot, just like always. But this time, there was also a water tank visible, which wasn't there in the last loop. That meant things were about to get even worse. Survive the night or become a part of it. That's what the old lady said, and Clover told everyone. Since then, they locked themselves inside the bathroom. That's when Abel got thirsty and drank a glass of water from the bathroom tap. The rest took a few sips too. That's when Megan said they needed to find a way out fast. Something was changing inside them. Right then, Abel's stomach started rumbling, and in the next second, his whole body exploded like a watermelon. Everyone was shaken to the core. Within seconds, Nina's stomach started making the same noise, and she exploded too. That's when the rest realized it was happening because of the water. Suddenly, one of Megan's legs blew off, and her belly swelled up like a football bladder and burst. Clover, terrified, begged Max to kill her, but Max couldn't do it, and then he exploded too. In the end, Clover gave up and just waited for her death. That's when a man showed up. Clover instantly recognized him. He was the same guy from the gas station who had told her about Galore Valley. So it was all his doing. And just before the last grain of sand could fall, Clover died too. The time loop spun again, and they all came back to life. But this time, weird changes had started in their bodies. Megan's teeth were turning into monster fangs, and something creepy was growing on Abel's back. While looking for a way out, Clover found an ID that belonged to the gas station guy. It said his name was Dr. Alan Heel. Now the doubt was gone. He definitely did something messed up to this place. That's when Abel found a newspaper from 20 years ago talking about the Galore Valley mine collapse. Because of digging too deep, the mine caved in and over 1,100 people died. Dr. Alan Heel was a trauma specialist who was brought in to treat the survivors. The whole town basically got swallowed by the earth. This was the only house that didn't collapse. Then Nina opened a big door that maybe led to a tunnel down to the mine. Clover said, "I'm going in there to find a way out. We've already tried escaping from the top." Meanwhile, Max found a VCR tape where a man looked super scared, begging someone behind the camera, Dr. Alan Heel, to let him go. "Why do I keep dying and coming back? Please, let me go." Dr. Alan Heel didn't appear in the tape. Only his voice was heard saying, "This experiment works on the survivors from the mine and the unlucky ones who end up here by mistake." After experimenting on this guy, Dr. Alan locked him in a glass cell. 20 days later, that man turned into a terrifying creature called a Wendigo, which meant he was now insanely hungry and super dangerous. Megan and the rest of them realized they were slowly turning into that terrifying Wendigo too, if they didn't do something in time. By the 20th day, they'd all meet the same fate. Clover now understood everything. They were being watched the whole time. She grabbed the radio and said, "Please, just let us go." This time, the doctor finally responded, "Sure, there's one way, but it comes with a price. One of you has to actually die. The rest four can leave." But none of the five were ready to sacrifice themselves for the others. The only way out of this place was to get to the doctor. That's when Clover said on the radio that she wanted to meet him, and surprisingly, he agreed, but with one condition. Clover had to come alone into the woods, where she would also see her sister. Clover agreed to go into the forest, and Abel supported her. But Clover's other friends didn't want her to go alone, and they got mad at Abel for backing her up. In the end, Clover went into the forest alone. That's when her foot got caught in a trap, and someone dragged her into the darkness. Meanwhile, in the middle of fighting with Abel, Nina stabbed a sharp shovel right through his back. She said, "My friends mean more to me than my own life. Because of you, Clover went into the woods." Nina had only been dating Abel for 2 weeks, so she chose her friends over him. Actually, the doctor had said that one of them had to die to be free. But that didn't happen, because before Abel could even die, the masked man showed up and took out both him and Nina. Meanwhile, Max and Megan had already headed into the forest to find Clover. That's when they spotted a Wendigo on top of a tree that chased them like a hungry wolf. While running, Megan slipped and fell on an underground glass panel, and it cracked. The next second, the Wendigo pounced on it, broke through, and dragged Megan away. On the other side, Clover was in terrible shape. She was just waiting to die when Max showed up to save her. Somehow, Max pulled her leg out of the trap, and that's when Clover's sister showed up, now fully turned into a Wendigo. Seeing her like that, Clover screamed in fear. Max then shoved the trap right into Melanie's face. After that, both of them sat quietly and decided to die. Clover's leg was useless now. They planned to die and come back again. Max killed Clover just like she asked, and then drank some of the leaking water from the pipeline to end himself too. When Clover opened her eyes, they were all alive again, and it was their 4th night. But Nina said no, it was their 13th night. She had signed the logbook 13 times, which meant they didn't remember anything that happened after the 3rd night. And the craziest part, no one had ever signed more than 13 times, which meant this was their last shot. But something was different this time. Megan was missing. Abel got suspicious, so he checked his phone to look back at the past nights. There were several creepy videos in his gallery, and one of them shook everyone. A recording of Clover that left them speechless. The second video was even scarier than the first, and the third one was beyond messed up. The 4th video gave them a clue. 4 people were already dead, and Megan was the only one left. She had secretly been recording the doctor. After seeing this, the doctor went through that tunnel path. Megan, while recording, said she was going in after him. Maybe she could find a way out. She went in through the tunnel and had been missing ever since. Tonight was going to be the last and deadliest night, because this time, a bunch of people had shown up outside the house to hunt them. In the end, they all decided to go rescue Megan and escape through the tunnel, and grabbed every weapon they could find. Deep inside, they spotted a Wendigo, and then out of nowhere, one attacked Nina. Clover somehow saved her, But the next moment, a hungry swarm of Wendigos came charging after them. They kept running until they locked themselves behind a strong door to stay alive. But that room wasn't safe either. From the ceiling, the masked man crashed through a glass panel and landed right in the middle of them. That's when Max says, "Clover, you go. We'll handle this." Clover does exactly that, but further ahead, she runs into Melanie. The two sisters get into a fight, and in the end, Clover kills Melanie. On the other side, Max, Nina, and Abel all team up to fight the masked man, and after a tough battle, they finally take him down. This terrifying night is at its peak, and there's only a little time left before the loop starts again. Clover's doing everything she can, but she still hasn't found Megan or the doctor. All she's running into are Wendigos. While hiding from them, she finds a door that says, "Do not enter." She still goes in and sees water leaking from a pipe. She already knew what happens if you drink that water. She avoids it and keeps moving, and then sees Megan locked up in the next room. And in that same room, there's also a Wendigo chained up, who freaks out the moment he hears Clover's voice. Turns out he's starving and wants food. The keys to this room are with Dr. Alan Hill, and he has to be hiding somewhere around here. After a lot of searching, Clover finds the doctor's spot, full of monitors he was using to keep an eye on them. On the table, there's also a psychiatric report with Clover's name on it. Just then, the doctor walks in holding a coffee. He sees Clover there and says, "You're a good patient, but the way you're losing control when facing each monster, that's not good." He says that old lady has a gift of controlling people, and that exploding from the water thing, that was one of his special experiments. While all this is happening, Clover slowly slides his coffee cup right under the leaking pipe. The moment he drinks it, his stomach starts rumbling. That's when Clover smirks and says, "This time you're the one who's gonna blow up, old man." And the very next second, the doctor explodes into pieces. Meanwhile, the sand is almost gone, and the monster in Megan's room is just about to break the chains. Clover grabs the keys and runs to Megan, and just in time, she unlocks her and gets her out. But now all the monsters in the place start waking up. Every path is filled with them. Clover and Megan run like hell, and that's when they spot the ladder that leads out through the tunnel. On the other side, Nina also finds a way out. All three of them climb up and make it out, but Clover and Megan get caught by the monsters. There's only a few grains of sand left now. That's when Nina and the others somehow gather the courage and pull both of them out just in time. The very next moment, the weather goes normal again, and the time loop doesn't start. That clearly means they all survived and took off in the car.